I was preparing the Christmas dinner while I waited for the kids to arrive. Being a widow was a challenge for me, especially during the holidays, and I was grateful that my kids could come over and spend time with me. I left the turkey in the oven as I rushed to answer the door. "Merry Christmas, Mum," my 3 kids cheered happily. Jason, Henry and Lilac were smiling with joy after our group hug, and I couldn't be more thankful with having my loving children. "Come inside quickly, the turkey is in the oven and I don't want to set this house on fire," I joked to lighten the atmosphere. While I focused on the turkey, I could hear my children laughing and screaming in the living room, most likely catching up with everything. Suddenly I get a call from my daughter, Lilac. Strange. I just hugged her not long ago, and if she wanted something she could shout for me from the living room. I answered the phone after placing the turkey onto the counter. "Mum. Sorry for the delay," Lilac replied immediately. "Traffic is really rough on the road during this time. I hope you're not too lonely right now. Jason and Henry are in the back with me so you don't have to worry about them. We'll see you soon, Mum." "I can't wait for the turkey," Jason yelled at the back. "Same," Henry added on. "Oh, all right." I mustered the courage not to cry. "Hurry though, the turkey is going to get cold." "We will," all my kids said in unison before ending the call. I became petrified. If my kids weren't in the living room, who was? I stood there, the phone still pressed to my ear, my heart pounding in my chest. My gaze slowly shifted towards the living room where the laughter and chatter continued. A chill crawled up my spine as I hesitated for a moment before slowly making my way back to the room. I peeked through the slightly ajar door, my breath catching in my throat. My 3 children, Jason, Henry, and Lilac, were there, sitting on the couch, chatting and laughing just as they had been a moment ago. The sight sent shivers down my spine. The voice on the phone was Lilac's, there was no doubt about it. Yet, she was right there in the living room, safe and sound. I mustered the courage to step into the living room, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy. "I thought you guys were in the traffic," I stammered, my eyes darting between their faces. They exchanged glances, confusion evident in their expressions. "What are you talking about, Mum?" Jason asked, furrowing his brow. I held up the phone, my voice shaky. "Lilac just called me, apologizing for the delay. She said you guys are stuck in traffic." Their faces turned pale, and the room seemed to grow colder. "We haven't called you, Mum," Lilac insisted, her eyes wide with concern. I felt a knot tightening in my stomach as the realization hit me. Someone else had called me, someone who knew about my kids and the traffic. The imposter was still in my house, pretending to be one of my children. Fear gripped me as I scanned their faces, desperately trying to discern the truth. The imposter's eyes met mine, and a sinister grin played on their lips. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead as I stumbled backward. "Get out of my house!" I shrieked, my voice quivering. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for the phone, contemplating calling the police. The imposters stood up slowly, their eyes never leaving mine. Just as I reached for the phone, the lights flickered, plunging the room into momentary darkness. My heart pounded in my chest, and when the lights came back on, the imposter was gone. Only my children remained, their faces etched with confusion and concern. The room felt stifling, and the air hung heavy with an unspoken fear. I couldn't shake the image of that sinister grin from my mind, and every creak of the floorboards sent a jolt of terror through me. My children, still oblivious to the intruder's presence, exchanged worried glances, mirroring the unease that now permeated the room. Dread clawed at my throat as I struggled to compose myself. I need to check something in the kitchen," I stammered, my eyes darting nervously around the room. As I retreated to the kitchen, I clutched the phone, my fingers white-knuckled. My thoughts raced, trying to make sense of the bizarre situation. How had someone mimicked Lilac's voice so convincingly? And why had they chosen this moment, this sacred family gathering, to infiltrate our lives? The kitchen offered little solace as I gripped the edge of the counter, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. The aroma of the partially cooked turkey hung in the air, now a bitter reminder of the intrusion that had tainted what was supposed to be a joyous occasion. I decided to call Lilac back, needing to confirm that my real children were en route. My hands trembled as I dialed her number, the seconds stretching into an eternity before she answered. "Hello?" Lilac's voice came through the phone. Relief washed over me as I heard her familiar tone. "Lilac, are you okay? Where are you guys?" "We're still in the car, Mum. Traffic is insane." "Is everything alright?" she inquired. My heart sank, and a chill gripped me once more. I don't know how to explain, but someone pretending to be you just called. They said you and the boys were stuck in traffic, but you're telling me you're still on the road. Silence hung between us for a moment. "Mum, that's creepy. Be careful, okay? We'll be there soon." The confirmation that my children were still on their way only intensified the horror of the situation. I cautiously made my way back to the living room, trying to act normal, though the weight of paranoia pressed upon my shoulders. I hesitated at the threshold, watching my children interact. The imposter, disguised among them just moments ago, had vanished without a trace. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes lingering in the shadows. The atmosphere remained tense as we attempted to resume our Christmas celebrations, but the joy had dissipated, replaced by an unsettling sense of vulnerability. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and I couldn't shake the paranoia that the imposter might return. As the evening wore on, the facade of normalcy crumbled further. The lights flickered intermittently, and strange noises echoed through the house. Every glance towards my children was met with a mix of concern and confusion, as if they too sensed the lingering presence of an intruder. Finally, the sound of car engines outside brought a collective sigh of relief. My real children had arrived, their faces reflecting exhaustion from the long journey. I rushed to greet them, embracing each one tightly, seeking reassurance in the tangible reality of their presence. Yet, even as we exchanged laughter and shared the warmth of family, a lingering fear clung to me. The memory of the imposter's grin haunted my thoughts, a chilling reminder that the sanctity of home could be shattered, even on a joyous Christmas night.
Story 2.
The day we received the antique elf doll, the atmosphere in our home shifted. The initial excitement of Christmas Eve was replaced with an unspoken tension, as if the very air around us had grown heavy. The doll sat innocently on the mantelpiece, its grin casting an unsettling shadow in the festive glow. As night descended, we gathered around the Christmas tree, the twinkling lights attempting to dispel the unease that clung to the corners of the room. The first sign of something amiss came in the form of tiny footsteps, almost drowned out by the cheerful carols playing softly in the background. "Did anyone else hear that?" I asked, my gaze fixed on the elf doll. My family exchanged uneasy glances, each member seemingly reluctant to admit to the growing discomfort. The giggles that followed, however, left no room for denial. They were faint, playful whispers that seemed to mock our attempts to enjoy the holiday. "Who's there?" my father called out, his voice echoing in the hushed room. The response was a chilling silence, broken only by the subtle rustle of wrapping paper. We brushed it off, attributing the strange occurrences to holiday stress and imagination running wild. Yet, as the night progressed, the atmosphere turned from festive to foreboding. The footsteps grew bolder, moving purposefully from room to room, leaving us in a state of perpetual vigilance. Each investigation yielded nothing but an empty hallway or an untouched room. "I don't like this," my mother admitted, her eyes fixed on the elf. The decision to move the doll to the attic was unanimous, an attempt to quell the unsettling energy that seemed to emanate from it. As I carried it away, a voice whispered in my ear, "You can't escape me." I recoiled, dropping the box in shock. The chilling words hung in the air, a confirmation that the malevolence was not merely a figment of our imagination. Back in the living room, the whispers intensified. Secrets were revealed, intimate details we had never spoken aloud. The malevolent force seemed to feed on our fears, manipulating our surroundings and playing with our sanity. "We need to get rid of that thing," my father declared, his voice strained. Terrified, we sealed the elf in a box, the whispers growing louder as we did. The decision to dispose of it in a distant dumpster was fueled by desperation. We drove for what felt like hours, leaving the haunted doll behind, hoping to escape the nightmare. Christmas morning greeted us with a haunting silence. Our home felt empty, devoid of the holiday cheer that had once filled its walls. The elf was gone, but the oppressive atmosphere remained. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and the unsettling whispers persisted. "I thought we got rid of it," my sister stammered, her eyes wide with fear. The decision to abandon our home came swiftly, a desperate attempt to escape the malevolence that clung to our every step. As we drove away, the whispers followed, taunting us until we were mere silhouettes in the rearview mirror. Our new destination offered no respite. The elf, seemingly undeterred by the miles we had put between us, awaited us on the doorstep, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly malice. The realization struck us like a physical blow. This was no ordinary doll, it was a conduit for something darker. Driven to the brink of madness, we grappled with the realization that the malevolence of the elf was not confined to a physical form. It was a presence, a force that transcended the boundaries of the material world. The doll became a cursed relic, and abandoning it became a futile endeavor. Days turned into nights, and the relentless whispers haunted our every waking moment. Sleep became a torment, as the malevolent force invaded our dreams with visions of twisted grins and echoing laughter. The climax of our horror unfolded in a crescendo of supernatural phenomena. Objects moved of their own accord, shadows danced with unseen entities, and the very walls of our new refuge seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. In a desperate bid for answers, we sought the help of paranormal investigators. Their arrival brought with it an escalation of supernatural activity. The atmosphere crackled with tension as the investigators attempted to communicate with whatever malevolent entity had attached itself to the elf. As they conducted their seance, the room plunged into darkness, and a bone-chilling voice spoke through the void, "You cannot escape the darkness you have unleashed." A cold sweat broke out on my forehead as I realized the horrifying truth: the elf was a vessel, a conduit for a malevolent spirit that had found its way into our lives. The investigators' attempts to banish the entity only seemed to anger it further. In the chaos that ensued, the once festive home became a battleground between the living and the supernatural. The investigators fought to close the portal they believed the elf had opened, but the entity fought back with a ferocity that defied the laws of the natural world. The climax of our horror unfolded in a cacophony of screams and paranormal phenomena. The very foundations of our reality seemed to crumble as the malevolent force, now unleashed, sought to consume everything in its path. In the end, we were left with a hollow shell of a home, the remnants of our lives scattered like debris. The haunted elf, now a relic of unspeakable horror, had disappeared, leaving behind a trail of destruction. As I stood amidst the ruins of what was once our sanctuary, the echoes of the malevolent laughter lingered in the air. The Christmas elf, with its sinister grin, had become a harbinger of darkness, a conduit for a malevolence that defied explanation. The horror of that Christmas lingered long after the physical remnants had been cleared away. It was a tale whispered in hushed tones, a cautionary story of the dangers that could be unleashed by something as seemingly innocent as a holiday decoration. The memory of that haunted Christmas would forever cast a shadow over the joyous season, a reminder that sometimes, the most festive of gifts could hide the darkest of secrets.
Story 3.
The weight of solitude settled upon me like a heavy shroud as I sat alone in my house on that snowy Christmas Eve. The dim glow of festive lights barely managed to dispel the melancholy that hung in the air. It was a night meant for joy and companionship, yet circumstances had conspired to leave me in a solitary embrace. The ticking of the old grandfather clock echoed through the quiet rooms, accentuating the silence that enveloped the house. As I sat there, lost in the somber dance of the flickering candlelight, a distant sound reached my ears, a soft murmur of caroling carried by the winter wind. Curiosity tugged at my heart, and I rose from my chair, drawn to the haunting melody outside. I approached the front door, hesitating for a moment before swinging it open to reveal a world blanketed in snow. The ethereal glow of the moon illuminated the pristine landscape, and there, on my doorstep, stood a group of children. Their voices, though sweetly harmonious, carried an otherworldly quality that sent shivers down my spine. Dressed in old-fashioned attire, their faces were obscured by the dim glow of the streetlights, lending them an eerie, timeless appearance. Their breath formed clouds in the frigid air as they continued to sing, seemingly oblivious to the chill that clung to the night. "Come and join us," one of them whispered, the invitation hanging in the air like an ominous mist. I hesitated, unnerved by the unnatural quality that surrounded these carolers. "Thank you, but I prefer to enjoy the music from here," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As the last notes of their haunting carol faded into the night, the children turned away, their forms vanishing into the swirling snow. I closed the door, a sense of unease settling over me like a heavy cloak. The blackness of their eyes lingered in my mind, an image that refused to be dismissed. Unable to shake off the disquiet that had settled upon me, I sought solace in the familiar, a forgotten old photo album tucked away in a dusty corner. Its pages, yellowed with time, revealed glimpses of a bygone era, capturing moments of joy, love, and a family long past. And then, as I turned a page, the world seemed to tilt on its axis. A photograph stared back at me, frozen in time. The carolers, the eerie children with pitch-black eyes, stood in the background. Only, they weren't strangers. They were my grandparents, their faces etched with a familiarity that transcended the boundaries of life and death. A chill crawled up my spine as I traced the contours of their faces in the photograph. It couldn't be. My grandparents had passed away many years ago, their absence leaving an indelible void in my heart. Yet here they were, frozen in a moment that defied the laws of reality. The realization struck me like a thunderbolt. The carolers weren't just spectral children, they were a manifestation of something far more profound and inexplicable. The snowy Christmas Eve had become a conduit, bridging the realms between the living and the departed. Dread settled over me as I heard the distant echo of their haunting carol once more. The old clock in the corner seemed to tick with an ominous rhythm, each sound a reminder of the inexplicable events unfolding around me. As the ghostly melody swelled, I felt a presence enveloping the room. The air grew thick with an unseen energy, and the temperature dropped, as if the spirits of my grandparents had returned to claim the Christmas celebration they had missed so many years ago. The climax unfolded in a symphony of supernatural phenomena. Shadows danced on the walls, and the room pulsated with an otherworldly force. The forgotten memories of snowy Christmas Eves past seemed to converge with the present, blurring the lines between reality and the supernatural. In the midst of this spectral convergence, the carolers materialized once more, their black eyes fixing on mine with an intensity that transcended the ethereal. The haunting melody reached its zenith, and I felt a profound connection to a realm beyond understanding. As the last note faded away, the room returned to an eerie stillness. The photo album lay open, a testament to the inexplicable encounter that had unfolded on that snowy Christmas Eve. The air itself seemed to hold the weight of the supernatural, a lingering presence that spoke of a timeless connection between the living and the departed. In the aftermath, I stood alone in the quietude of the night, the echoes of the spectral carolers etched in my memory. The snowy landscape bore witness to a tale that defied explanation, a tale of a solitary woman, a snowy Christmas Eve, and the inexplicable reunion with long-lost loved ones from beyond the veil. As the night wore on, I found myself compelled to explore the hidden corners of my home. The grandfather clock chimed with an eerie resonance, its echoes leading me to a long-forgotten attic. The air was thick with dust and the scent of memories long past. In the dim light, I stumbled upon a collection of dusty old ornaments and forgotten relics of Christmases gone by. As I sifted through the remnants of the past, my hands brushed against a weathered box, tucked away in a secluded corner. The box, adorned with faded ribbon and brittle with age, seemed to beckon me. With trepidation, I lifted the lid, revealing a trove of forgotten treasures, an array of old photographs, letters, and trinkets that bore the weight of decades. As I delved into the contents of the box, the ghostly caroler's song echoed in the recesses of my mind. The photographs spoke of bygone celebrations, of laughter and joy that had once filled these walls. Yet, as I traced the faces frozen in time, a realization dawned upon me: the spectral carolers were not the only entities that bridged the realms of the living and the departed. The letters, written in familiar handwriting, spoke of love and longing, of messages left unsaid and connections severed by the cruel hand of fate. The trinkets held sentimental value, relics of a time when these objects had been touched by hands long gone. A letter, penned by my grandmother, spoke of a snowy Christmas Eve, the very night when the carolers had made their spectral appearance. In her words, she detailed the warmth of family gathered around, the laughter that echoed through the rooms, and the promise of traditions to be upheld for generations to come. And then, as the ink on the paper traced the contours of a heartfelt sentiment, the narrative took an unexpected turn. My grandmother spoke of a longing, a connection to be rekindled across the veil of time. The letter hinted at a pact, a promise made on that snowy Christmas Eve, binding the living and the departed in a spectral dance. The realization struck me like a revelation, unraveling the threads of an otherworldly tapestry. The carolers weren't a mere manifestation of the past, they were conduits of a timeless bond, a connection between generations that defied the constraints of mortality. With newfound understanding, I felt a gentle presence surrounding me, as if the spirits of my grandparents lingered in the attic, whispering secrets from beyond. The snowy Christmas Eve had become a bridge between the tangible and the ethereal, a night where the spirits of